majority of speakers, I want everyone in this debate to recognize the following things if they are thinking of movies, movie industry, or Hollywood. You need to realize when you are watching the movie, the effect of the particular movie does not stay within the cinema. The effect of the movie also affects the way you interact in real life. The effect of the movie also transcends beyond the cinema, but also the way you treat others, the way you see the people of color. So therefore, we need to assume that it is a proposition fiat that some of the portrayal within the movie will affect the way people interact in real life. There will be a tangible effect toward the portrayal of that movie. On opening government, we regret the trend of the rise of the white savior narrative on Hollywood film. We think enough is enough. There is too much white heroes. We think we are regretting the fact that there is a rise of numbers of white saviors. On opening government, we're even more than willing, although this is a value judgment bit, if this were a proposal, we would be more than willing to subsidize the heroes of people of color. I have everything to talk about in my speech. Let's take a look at my first argument, why the rise of white savior narratives in the form of racism materialized in media and therefore by principle is wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, racism comes in many forms. It comes if someone judges others based only on their race. It says that one race is less than others. That is the definition of racism. We say that the case of white savior narrative is that form of racism because the implication or the message of the movie or the narrative is that one race is so weak, so inferior that none of their members from that huge population can rise up to the extent that you need salvation from that otherwise. You embolden the inferiority, you are selling the weakness and the vulnerability of that particular race. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a form of degradation to that race, and that is racism. That's the first layer of the first argument. But what makes it even more unfair and unjust is that because in the scenario of white people, there is also a scenario where there is poor white, there is vulnerable white, and there is weak white. But in that movie, the white themselves rise as the hero, ladies and gentlemen. We are giving this preferential treatment toward the white hero and black vulnerable, ladies and gentlemen. We allow those who are weak those white that are weak and vulnerable to be their own hero. But when it comes to black, when they're weak and they're vulnerable, we let the white takes over the hero model. This differential treatment is unfair and is intended to perpetuate degradations and therefore racism judgment. Therefore, in principle, it is unjust. Secondly, I would like to talk about one of the probable response that we make here from opposition is that this may be a good incentive for white in certain scenario to help the POC or to create a portrayal that we need to help each other. So I'm going to show you why that's bad. In the best scenario, let's say some white people, because of the movie that they watch, is motivated in some way to help the people of color or the black people. It's that help that is motivated by the white savior narrative does not consider as a self-empowerment because it is contingent on the fact that the other race is helping them. This does not amount to a self-empowerment because there is a difference between you empowering yourself, struggling by yourself, than you being helped, than you being given. It does not amount to self-empower. Those who are black and vulnerable, even if they can rise up to the top, they know for a fact that it's thanks to those who are white. It does not amount to them being empowered, to feel that now they are strong, now that they have undergone certain struggle and they succeed judgment. But on our side, the also amounts to self-empowerment. Why is that the case? Because it is a struggle, because it is a cause that they can claim judgment, because they themselves, with their effort, with their hard work, working together to rise up to the top of all the judgment. So it amounts to self-empowerment judgment. We would rather, on opening government, have the narrative of the success story of women like Beyonce, who herself, understanding her black background, her women background, is able to rise up to the top, and claim her own success. On the result house, this story of someone else who is equally as successful as Beyonce may not be as strong because people know for a fact that that particular figure rising to the top because of the help of the white, and it does not amount to self-empowerment. But here's the thing, this is the worst scenario, because in some bad scenario, the white have no incentive to help the black. Sometimes the government does not need affirmative action. We need to create a portrayal where the black people, where the people of color can survive all by themselves, judgment, regardless portrayal would be created, because on their side, the portrayal is that you can only success if the government helps you. You can only success if the white helps you. No, that's not what the portrayal that we want. Because in some scenario, you are against all odds, and sometimes it requires you to fight on your own judgment. So we show you what results to a negative empowerment. It does not lead to a bad, to a self-empowerment. That is the second argument. Whoever says to the last argument. Now, let's take a look at the third argument, the argument of harm. How the rise of white savior narratives harms the progress on the positive portrayal on people of color. We said in status quo, we have reached a certain level of progressiveness. We have tried to debunk the negative stereotype surrounding POC. For example, in the past, we have a stereotype that Asians are weak, are submissive, are weak. The black are, for example, uneducated and violent. We try to challenge that narrative. We create some movies where they are the leading characters, where they are the heroes. They are not as weak, they are not uneducated, they can be civilized, they are not violent. The problem with the rise of white savior, it harms their progress. Because in order for you to be able to be the hero in that story of the people of color, you need to constantly embolden the negative stereotype that we have tried to debunk in the past. That Asians is so submissive and so weak that we need to help them as a white people. That the black are so uneducated and so uncivilized that they cannot negotiate, that we need to help them. So it harms the progress that we have made so far. They get us back to the scenario where we see people based on their race, based on the first prejudice that we had earlier in the past judgment that Asians are weak, and black are uneducated and violent. Finally, I'll show you three arguments. I'll show you why, in principle, it's a form of racism, therefore should be abolished. Secondly, why it does not lead to self-empowerment, because it's not a struggle, it's not a story that they can claim. And lastly, we show you how it harms the progress on creating a positive portrayal of people of color with very